Hey everybody, Brad Linder back at you with another one. Going to turn on the large lamps here so we can get some extra light. There we go, cool deal. All right, I have Zodac from, not Zodiac, but Zodac from He-Man, the original 1980s series. Uh, hey Jim, glad you made it, man. As I said, this is going to be Zodac from He-Man. I've been mispronouncing it since I started the card, and I don't know why, because I'm a huge fan of this series. But life happens. Uh, I was a fan of the series as a kid, and I just got hooked into it. And hey, stuff gets mixed up over the years when you start losing your memory, like me. I'm an old guy now. 42 almost, and anyway, it's all good. His name is Zodac, and he's from the original 1980s He-Man saga. And uh, this dude is just one of the masters that's really, really cool and phenomenal. And this is going to be like maybe a few minutes to color this guy because he's got like 3 colors, literally. And I want to keep it clean and simple, just like the others prior of this set. I want to keep it very clean, very simple. And I'm just going to brush this out. And it's kind of I don't want to say a speed test for me because it's not, but I like to see how fast and clean I can do these sometimes, just for sake of getting them done and pushing my skill set so that I can get it completed for you guys. But like I said, though, this one's going to be really clean, really simple, because there's the flesh tone, as we see here, which he has like a super tan going on. And then there's going to be some gray highlights right up in here for the gear on his helmet, which I'll have to stop and grab that other paint because I didn't get it. Then we have some really cool stuff with the red in the helmet here, and then there's a white patch on this W right here, and then all the rest of this chest piece is red, and so are the gauntlets, gloves, and the spear itself. So this should be fairly quick. And like I said, I just want to kind of turn this one into a speed painting test for myself and hang out with you guys and make sure that it gets done so you guys can see what happened with it. But I like this series because of the fact that it was wholesome, and kids these days don't get a lot of 80s style cartoons because of the education, the Animation Education Act, which Mr. Rogers and a couple of other bigwig people of the time were in charge of, that we had no say over. And they were trying to do the best with the education and keeping it clean, keeping a lesson, keeping a moral going on. And what they ended up doing is making it very hard for cartoons to have any kind of action or violence or kind of heavy storyline, because they would always get too intense for the ratings. So, I found that a really hardcore thing. But like you said, Jim, it was a great series. It really was. Hey Todd, glad you made it, man. um it is a great series. It still is to this day. It's one of my favorite cartoons, and I have it on DVD and watch it all the time. And yeah, that was just one of those things, man. I really, really love that cartoon, and I like all those old school cartoons. I have Cops, Silverhawks, He-Man. I even have the She-Ra stuff on DVD, and a lot of my buddies give me flack over that. But the thing of it is, though, that's part of the legacy and the part of the overall collection of those characters was to be a part of all of it. And then you had things like Brave Star, which is one of my absolute favorites. There's so many that came in through those Filmation style cartoon studio acts, and it was just weird, man. I mean, the cartoons that were out there were well thought. I mean, I know they were for toys and stuff, mostly merchandising for Mattel or other toy companies, and they were well thought, though, because the people over at Filmation put in their heart and soul into these things. I mean, they made their living doing this, and that's exactly what they did. They, sit around a table many hours, many late nights, and early mornings trying to get everything in sync to where they could produce a solid show that was going to last for way beyond their lifetime. And it has so far. I mean, granted, it's only 20, 30 years later, but still, the legacy that they left is intense, and there's nothing like it since. It's like when Jack Kirby made the transition into modern comics in the 60s from what we known from the 50s prior to be, the panel, and not really in motion. And then Todd McFarlane came along in the 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, and really rocked the boat with a graphic style, a graphic art style. And that's where he got his stuff in motion. And you see so many different creators these days doing the same exact thing. Oh my goodness, excuse my sniffles. I've got a spell coming on, but try not to sneeze. But anyway, it was a great time. And we see the evolution come along once in a while where these guys just jump off the page or jump off the screen. And there's nothing in the world like it when it happens. Nothing. And it could have been done decades before. Todd McFarlane's notorious for saying it could have been done decades before. But, and that's true. But the thing was, it just wasn't, it wasn't socially acceptable until those guys came along and did it. And it's just like, why not test it a little bit? Why not push the button? Why not, chase the rabbit, as the saying goes, and see what comes of it? And they end up getting all these great results because people are ready for it, but nobody wants to ask for it. Nobody wants to be first because they don't want to be told no. And, the fan base will never tell us what they want except for in purchasing. Okay. The fandom will come on in the results of like the Walking Dead fame. It's people showing up to the cons and buying the books and things like that. And it's with any business and marketing of any product or service. Okay. That's the big thing. And we are so chicken about that. I mean, it's true. We don't want to do anything, and the fandom doesn't want to go in and say, okay, this is where it's at. This is what we want to see until they're shown what they possibly can see and what we're allowed to do. And it's the same way with internet marketing that I've found out, over the years, that it's the same exact thing across the market, platform period, in any niche market. It's all about getting in there and showing the market what you want to show them and asking them, hey, is this what you want? Because, there's so many things that come out and it just flops and it's all hit and miss because of the fact that we don't know what we want as consumers until we see it. Have you ever noticed that? That's why marketers that go after, that's why these shows and cartoons and marketers and toys and books and movies and all that, anything that comes out, it's either a hit or a miss. And it's because when you ask them what they want as a consumer, unless they know what they specifically need and require it and go hunting for it themselves, which is fine, but in the general aspect of it, if they don't go hunting for it and know what they're looking for, then they don't know what it is until they see it. That's why when people say, well, I've got to go find an avatar and I've got to go find my audience and I've got to go find this, it's like, really? Where do you think they are? What do you think you're hunting for? Well, I don't know. I've got to go ask them. Well, when you ask them, what do they say? Well, they say, I don't know. Well, the reason they say they don't know is because they don't know. Okay? They really don't. They really, really, really don't. And the reason that they say that is because of the fact that they're looking for something in their mind that they need to see, and they don't know what it is until they see it. And comics, cartoons, business, everything is like that. And people don't get it. And that was something that Filmation came out hitting on all cylinders and just busted it out. And they're like, well, you know what? We're gonna make an animation universe out of our animation studio, and we're gonna produce it. And we're gonna use toys as the inspiration for that content. And that's what they did with the Thundercats. That's what they did with the Silverhawks. That's what they did with G.I. Joe. Everything they touched, they got in there and did that. Transformers, huge properties. And you know, in the marketing aspect of the people that follow me for the marketing advice and stuff like that, let me tell you something plain and simple. It's the same exact thing. You put it out there and you make it well known. That's what you've got to do. You've got to put it out there first and say, this is what I'm going to do. This is my voice. This is what I want to share with you. And when you do that, you're going to end up seeing that like-minded people are going to come across and see you, and they're going to want to buy your stuff. And the reason they want to buy your stuff is because it resonates with them as well. But they're like, well, I didn't know I wanted that. Well, I didn't know I wanted to give that to you either. Oh my goodness. Oh, I found another one back. Bear with me just a second. Okay, got it under control. I don't want to stop this for it, but I don't want to sneeze on it on live either. It's just, man, we had a really nice, beautiful day yesterday, and then all the pollen warmed up, and then everything came out and spored and whatnot on the trees and stuff. And now my allergies today, because it warmed back up, are tearing me to pieces. And that's what's going on here. But I missed that side there. But yeah, wow, crazy stuff. I am going to use a grandiose purple. Maybe. I think I'll go with a green. I'm gonna go with a green to outline this one. Hey, Kevin, glad you made it, man. You know, man, Jim, you make fun of my cartoons, man, but oh my goodness, he's asking me if for those that see this on YouTube later, he's asking me if I'm sure I don't have it on old film reels. Ha ha! I'm not that old, dude. I'm just barely 41. I turned 42 later this year, and that's where it's at. But yeah, Jim's ribbing me because we are just good friends and hang out and whatnot, and we work together in marketing groups and things, and the dude's a nut. The dude is a nut. But yeah, it's crazy stuff, man. You know, kids these days, everybody says that every generation. You know, everybody's, you know, kids these days don't have it like we did. You know, and it's the thing is, we're pretty much the first generation that can say how good we had it from a positive perspective. You know what I mean? Because most generations come up and go, well, you know, we had to walk 2 ways, you know, in the snow, and up 2 sides of the hill to school in the snow with no shoes, and you know, it was freezing weather and blah blah blah, you know, and those hardship stories kind of thing. And there were a lot of hardships growing up, you know, when we were kids, but they were the family value hardships in a lot of cases, you know. I mean, most of us were latchkey kids because both of our parents worked or were with single parents. I mean, everybody's got a story, and all of humankind has a story, no big deal. Okay? Take that with a grain of salt. It's okay. Everybody has a story. And, you know, your unique approach to it is what most people want to hear about it when you're telling it. But then again, when you hear these types of stories about, you know, well, when I was a kid, this, that, and the other, well, we get to say that as late 70s, early 80s kids, and being little enough to remember these cartoons and these legacy lines that aren't there anymore. It's cartoons you guys are seeing, you know, as kids for the students that are watching, for my young students that'll be watching this tomorrow because I'm filming so late. You know, the cartoons that you're growing up with now are based on the stuff that we went through as kids to get to that level, with the cartoons and educational purposes behind them for the educational cartoons. And then for the entertainment stuff, like the Transformers, you know, rescue bots and all that stuff that's out there these days, and all these different variations. My Little Pony, which is huge now for kids and stuff again. That was all around when we were kids. That all started when I was little. And, you know, it's because of my generation liking it that you guys are getting to see the revamped stuff later. So think about that. You know, people just don't think about that. And it's par for course. I mean, granted, some of the 60s stuff, you know, the Hanna-Barbera stuff, like, you know, 60s and 70s stuff like Scooby-Doo and whatnot, was rebooted in the 80s. late 70s, early 80s, and you know, every generation has reboots and stuff, and they get to pull off of that and say, well, we had that generation first. Hanna-Barbera and Space Ghost and all that, and Birdman was, the 60s, and was my parents' generation as kids and kind of thing. And there's so many other things back there. It progresses down, but you guys are getting the best of the best and the worst of the worst. You're getting the most educational, non-entertaining cartoons, but yet you're getting, the rehash cartoons are starting to come back for these to entertain you guys. So think about that, and if your dad's watching these things or your mom's watching these things on YouTube, DVD, whatever, sit down and enjoy them because of the fact that you may not get to see them again. And especially in their original form, because the original form of these things will blow your mind in comparison. The animation still holds up to this day. And, most of it will hold up dialogue-wise and story-wise. But, some of it sounds cheesy, but most of it does hold up. It really does. So think about that. And get into older cartoons, too, and get into retro comics as well so you can find out what's going on with the legacies that were laid for the stuff that you're watching today. So that's it for now. This one's done. It's in the can. Talk to you guys tomorrow. I leave you, as always. You have this big rock for a limited amount of time. Make what you do with it count for yourself, bettering it every single day in this life and for the next generation. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.